And it looks like I have some sound here. And so I'm over here in the announcements section. And I basically, folks, this is a redo of what I thought I was doing this afternoon. And as I tried to convert the video, it just went bad. This has been a week of one technical glitch after the other. So this has been a really interesting week, to say the least. So I'm doing this recording, and once it's finished, I'm going to send it out to everybody. I'm going to go down here for just a moment to the modules, and we'll take a look at the modules that we have to work with. And we're down here to module 5, okay? And you have the following due this week. You have XLS 7, and you should have already uploaded it. And then you have the break even and the economic order quantity quiz, okay? And then you have the few text chapter 6 quiz. So you have those 2 quizzes, and you should have uploaded XLS 7. And as I said before, you know, we're working ahead here in these cases. And so today we're going to look at case 13, Pacific Trading, which is over on page 119 in the Student Solve It textbook, okay? Now, this is, again, page 119, and it's in that Solve It 6.0 textbook. Now, this is the second case that we really use Excel almost exclusively as a database, as opposed to what it really is, a spreadsheet. But it has some database functions. And the one that's most like what we're going to see with databases is the pivot table, Earth to Me. Well, I've had a week, a lot of technical issues. Anyway, we're going to use it today, and we have some, and Pacific case is spreadsheet case, Pacific Trading spreadsheet case 13, excuse me, is over on page 119. It's mismarked as 12, but it's actually 13. And I want to talk for just a moment about, and I'll go up to the files, and we're going to look at the analytical cube, okay? And we're going to go into the files. All right, and I'm going to look for the analytical cube. All right, and we'll see it, and I'm going to download it. Okay, and here it is, and we'll open it up. And as you can see, we have dimensions, which are like product and retailer, date, which is almost like a dimension, although we can handle a little bit like a measure, and then measures, things that we can count, subtract, multiply, divide, etc. Then we have fact. For example, how much revenue was generated. These things here, these questions, are what we call queries. And the reason we talk about the analytical cube is, notice the different types of data that are here, but how we can pull them and mix and match to get information, okay? Now, I'm going to be a little more truncated than usual because I spent an hour and 10 minutes today on going through what I thought was a class session and a live stream, and what I found to my dismay when I opened it to process it was just gobbledygook. And I had three people who joined me. Maybe, I hope, they were seeing what I saw on the screen, I pray. And if not, this will be the, I'll upload this as the recording. So it will probably be shorter than you might anticipate, okay? Now, case 13, and you won't be any want for the wear. I will get my pound of flesh, but will I go an hour and 15 minutes on this? And we'll see. Anyway, we're going to go down to page 119 in the Solve It text, and tells us about this company. Pacific Trading is an importer of organic fruits and vegetables. okay? And we get some information that they want to keep track of how they're doing and all that. This is on 119. And then at the bottom of page 119, our protagonist in the case, Maria, she takes an Excel course and learns about pivot tables. And pivot tables aside from Microsoft Solver, are the most powerful tools in Excel. Pivot table lets me use Excel like a database, but also do some computational work and so forth, and we'll see that as we go through the case. Now over on page 120, we see a series of tasks or questions that we're going to use the pivot table to work with. So I'm going to go here in the files. All right, I'm over here in the files area. All right, and I'm going to come down here. And I'm going to find the Solve It student files. And I'm going to download that file. All right. And I'm going to find Pacific Q. And I'm going to open it. Okay. Now, I'm going to save that to my desktop. I'm going to save it as computer, desktop, and I'm put it on my desktop. And this is called Pacific Q. And I'm going to call it Pacific Q Harmon Keith. Okay? So far, so good. Now, I'm going to save it there. All right. And I'm going to close it just to make sure I've got it. And I'm going to come here, close off this file, zip file, and open it and go down to my desktop and find Pacific Q with my name on it. And there it is. Okay, and there's Cardinal Buddy in his glory. Now I'm going to open this up. All right. And I want you to notice something. Here I have basically a set of records, okay, that look like, very much like what I would see in a table of a database. Okay, and we know that in database tables are longer than they are wide. And here we have a date which could be treated like a measure. I could count, I can take the difference between dates, for example. But they're primarily like what we would call a dimension, a variable, or a characteristic, or an independent variable. Then we have the item. That's definitely a dimension, factor, characteristic, or independent variable. Okay, the same with city. Now we come to sales, and that is a measure. It's a number that I can do something with mathematically. And then we come to the seller, and again, this is a factor, a characteristic, an independent variable, a dimension. Okay, and then we get the store type. Now what we have here is what we would call in database parlance we would call this a fact table, because it just lists a set of facts. It's a set of records, okay? And it's a records of sales, facts, things that happened. Now we can work with those with a fact table to pull information out. And remember, we take data and we convert it to information. And we do that for decision making. All IT, okay, should do nothing but help us make decisions, help us take data and put it with other data and make decisions. And that's the case here. So we've got this data table. So we're going to use the pivot table because we've got these 4 questions here. And that's in the middle of page 120. Okay. And I'm going to come over here. I'm going to scroll all the way down from A7. Okay. To F75. So I went from A7 to F75. Okay. Now I'm going to click Insert Pivot Table, and it has what we'd selected. Now you'll notice I could click Use an External Source, which means I could import data from another Excel sheet, or I can import a table into this, or I could export or any other source. This is called interoperability. I'm going to put this in a new worksheet, and I'm going to click OK. All right, and here I have my pivot table data. Now this is the data for Pacific Q, and I'm going to rename this tab as Pacific Q. I'm going to rename it Pacific Q data, and I'm just going to call it data Pacific Q. So I know that's my data. Okay. Now here I have, and I'm going to rename this as task 1, because we're going to do task 1 here. Okay. And in task 1, they ask us to find out during what month are the peaches most demand in Eugene. Now, when I click inside here, I see the pivot table fields. Okay. And we're in the pivot table design. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to take I'm going to take the variable city, and I'm going to put it here in the filters. Put it here in filters. Okay. Now this begins these filters. Think of this like a series of frames. The picture, the frame, and then we see the columns inside the picture, the row, and then the values themselves. Okay. I'm going to smudge it out just a little bit so we can have the city. And we have all. Now I'm going to click here, and this will show us I have all the cities, or I can select multiple items. Now we're interested in peaches in Eugene and the month. So I'm going to come here, and I'm going to take the date, and I'm going to put it in the rows. If we put it in the columns, it will be unmanageable. So we're going to put it in the rows. Those are the dates. Okay. And then in the column, I'm going to put the item. I'll just move that over there. Okay. And then let's see, I'm going to put the values will be sales. And there we are. Now we have the sales for all items, all dates, all cities. And now we need to drill down, and we need to drill down to the month peaches are most in demand in Eugene. So the first thing I'm going to do is come up here to the city, and I'm going to select just Eugene. Okay. That really starts to, and I'm doing a drill down. The second step of my drill down is I'm going to drill down to the exact item that I want, and that's peaches. All right. And now I'm in a position to figure out in which month do I sell the most peaches. Now that's pretty easy. I can do it visually, but if I had a whole bunch of records, I'd just do this. If I had all 12 months, for example, I'd do that. And I'm going to use our old friend conditional formatting. I'm going to put in gradient fill data bars. The dark blue, the green looks best with that. And there we are. And I can see now, if I want to, I'll go ahead and take those data and put them into dollars, as I will down here. But as you can see, the month I sell the most peaches is what? Well, it's September. So I have task 1 done. So what I did was, and I'll click over here and I'll show you, I started with the big picture, the city, and I put that up here in the filter. Then I did the columns, I put in the items, okay? And then in the rows, I put the dates. And then it became a matter of, on the items, I selected peaches and peaches only, because that's all I'm interested in. On the rows, the dates were, what they were. And then the values, I had the sum of sales. So I know what I saw, know what I sold. So, I've got that first task finished. Pretty easy task, not that hard, but you could see how easy Excel is to use, what a versatile tool it is to use. It's just really fantastic, okay? Now, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to take another sheet and I'm going to put task 2 on it, because I'm going to do the second task. And so again, I'm going to click on cell, on cell A7, and I'm come all the way down here to cell F75, and I'm going to click Insert Pivot Table, and I'm going to put it in a new worksheet. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take task 2 and I'm going to delete it. Okay. And then I'm going to come over here to sheet 3, and I'm going to rename it task 2. And that should be task, not tax. Rename it. Okay. And here is task 2. Now, when we click inside here, we'll see that the pivot table fields all appear. And we have to choose for that to be the case. Okay. And that's up in the formula bars. Now, here's the second one, second task, and this is in the middle of page 120. This is not going to be as easy. It says, who is the least productive salesperson? From the information provided by the pivot table, can you suggest any reason for this person's poor performance? Okay, well, let's do this. Let's start by taking the seller, click it, and putting the seller in the columns. Okay, and then we're just going to simply take sales and put it down here in values. And so now we see the sum of sales, okay? And we've got Baker, Berryman, Flanner, Pochet, Salat, and then the grand total, okay? Now, if we don't like how that looks, it's simple. We can put the seller over in the rows. That's probably a little prettier and a little bit more intuitive. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click all borders. Okay. Now, if I want to increase the visual acuity of this, I can put this up to about an 18 or 19, and I still have something nice. Okay. Okay, and that's much easier to see than what we had. Now we are going to come over here and we're going to use our conditional formatting, and I'm going to use data bars. And I'm going to use a gradient fill. Again, that kind of matches, and it's very apparent, okay, that in terms of sales, at least, the least productive salesperson is Baker, okay? However, we may need to look at this from a fresh perspective. So we click inside inside the data there, and we're going to do. Let's try store type, and I'm going to put that into the filters. Okay, and I'm going to see. Okay, I've got the store type. And let's see how Baker does in terms of delis. Okay. Let's look at how Baker does in terms of farm stands. Okay. Groceries. Not so good. Organic markets. Okay. Now, we have the sum of sales for that. We have the organic market. Now, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the store type off the filters. And I'm going to take store type because I don't think it's as intuitive. I'm going to put it over here in the columns. Now we got something we can think about, all right? Now we see Baker, okay? And we can see how Baker does by type of store. And, you know, you can tell Baker doesn't do well in delis. Baker doesn't do very well at all in terms of, well, delis, pretty dismal. Organic markets, okay, not too good. And so we could see maybe it's the type of store, okay? Because we see other people who are doing really excellent work with delis. Now, this may be an issue, okay, where maybe Baker's a new person, all right, and Baker just simply, you know, is not in the greatest of places. Although if I look at this right here, okay, I see Berryman. So I've been picking on Baker all the while. Now let's click in this, and I want to show the fields, okay? And I want to show the buttons and the field list, okay? And boy, I was picking on Baker, but really it's Berryman who's got the problem. I'll close this offer again. Yeah, let's put these in numbers. And we'll take a look at them. No, yeah, Baker indeed, yes. Baker's, yeah, only got 10,000 sales. Baker's in trouble. Everybody else here is clustering around $50,000, $40,000, $60,000. It is indeed Baker. I apologize about that. And let's just go ahead and put this into dollar so we know that what it is. So it may be, okay, that it's Baker just simply, you know, doesn't have the kind is not getting the kind of sales that he should get. In fact, I'm going to take all these data inside here and I'm going to put them into comma form. And that'll, we'll have to do a little bit of work here, kind of pull them out. Okay, there we are. Now, what I can do with these cells here, and the grand totals are pretty helpful as far as the bars, but I want to do the conditional formatting, and I'm going to clear the rules from the selected cells, okay? All right, I'll go back to task 2. And now I'm going to use the thermal. I think I'm going to do this one at a time so it gives me the play on the colors grades that I want. Yeah, there we go. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay. And again, nothing fancy. See, this is why I love pivot tables, because they really give me the benefit of a database as well as the benefit of a spreadsheet. Because if I want to, I can take these data, okay, and I can throw them out. And look, we're showing you all this, and we have you take these courses, all right? So you become comfortable working with some numbers and figures, but you also know how to put them into perspective. That's why I'm having you read the Stephen Few book. Okay, there we are. And now we can see that Baker, this is really dramatic because we can see Baker's at the bottom of the totem pole in every type of outlet. So there's definitely something wrong. Now, we could come back here, okay, and we're trying to kind of explain that, and we could screenshot this, put it into a report, copy it, and put it into something else. And we want to click on this, and then we want to go back over here, okay, on the design, on the analyze, and I want to add the field headers and the buttons and the field list, okay. And instead of store type, I'm going to take store type off of there. And instead, I'm going to put it in city. And let's see. Well, we see that Baker not only has trouble by store type, Baker's having problems with sales, doesn't have any sales in Portland. Very low sales in Eugene. Baker's not doing too bad. Let's do this. Let's do each of these again. Let's do that thermal. Okay, and so we'll go back to the home, and let's do that conditional formatting, and we'll put it with the color scales. Okay, we'll come back here again. We'll do the color scales. This has been one of those weeks. This is the second or third of these screencasts I've had to do, so you're welcome. All righty. Okay, now this really starts to show us. It not only was it by outlet, Baker's having problems in terms of cities. Baker's at the bottom in 3 of the 4 cities, and Baker has no sales in Portland. 0, nada. So yeah, it's no wonder then. So when we've looked in terms of city and we've looked in terms of store type, that's a problem. Well, let's just go ahead and do this. Let's put store type under there and see what it looks like. And that becomes a little unwieldy. So I'm going to come over here by seller and see what that looks like. That may help us a bit, but it's a bit busy. So I think what I might do is go ahead and put store type up there. All right. And then I can look at deli. I can look at farm stands. I can look at organic markets. And you can see as we're moving along, or restaurants. And that's task number 2. So there's any one of number of reasons, but it's apparent that Baker is not doing well at all. And so it's not just the type of restaurant they're in. It's not just the city. Okay. And you know, we can also go ahead, we'll click on this and let's look at items. And we'll put items over here, I guess, in cities. Let's see how that looks. Or we could try it over here under a filter. And I like this. We've got the cities, we've got the type of restaurant, we've got the product. We put apples. Berryman doesn't do too bad there. I mean, Baker's non-existent as far as that goes. Figs, there's no Baker there. Grapes, nobody's selling grapes, it looks like. Peaches, Baker's got some sales of peaches, not comparable. Pears, Baker, no sales of pears. Plums, no. So Baker is a problem, and so this may be training, it may be motivation, a number of but that would be a very disturbing thing to have to take a look at. Okay, well, now we're ready to go to task number 3. Okay, so I've got this sheet 4, and I'm going to click back on the data Pacific queue, and I'm going to insert a pivot table and put it in a new worksheet. Okay, and this says sheet 5. I'm going to make this task 3. I'll rename it. Okay, now this sheet 4, I'm going to delete it. I don't need it. All right, now I'm ready to do some work. And on task number 3, to say sales to restaurants entail more than sales to other venues. Is it worthwhile to continue marketing to them? Well, let's do this. And they give us a hint there to have the total show as percent of column. Select field settings option, show data as percent of column. All righty. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take store type and put it over here, I guess, in rows. And I'm going to take sales and put it here in values. All right. And on these sum of values, they tell us to choose. They tell us to show the field setting options. Okay, and I'm going to click options and show values as percent of column. So I'm going to do that. Percent of column total or percent of column. Let's see if they just say of column. And then they say percent of column total. Let's try that and see what we got. And we got nothing. All right. The sum of sales, value setting, and we want the average. Let's see if we've got the percent. We'll click sum, okay. And there we go. Now we can see what we're talking about. And notice that we've got restaurants comprise 13% of our sales. Okay. Now, that sounds wonderful, okay? But I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do sales again. And this time I'm going to put it in dollars and cents terms, okay? So that we see the percentages. Percentages can be deceiving. 13%, 14% of our sales is basically $29,000. So we're going to have to pick that up somewhere, and we're going to have to ask ourselves, where could we grow? Okay, and that's going to be a question for them to figure out. Is it worth it to pull? If we pull the advertising, how much of that 28,000 are we going to lose? Okay, and so that's pretty much what we're looking at. All right, now we've got one final task, okay, and they're saying they may be growing too fast. So we're going to go over here to Pacific Q. We'll go back here, and we got it highlighted, and we're going to click Insert, Pivot Table, okay, and I'm putting a new worksheet. Okay, we have this thing called Sheet 6. I'm going to rename it, as you would guess, Task 4. Okay, it's Task 4. And now we want to know, so now we're looking at cities. So we know for sure we want to take sales. And then I'm going to take city. Try cities and columns. That's not nice. Let's try rows. There we go. All right. And we're going to think about which one do we want to pull out of? Well, it's pretty simple. Okay. I can go ahead and I'm going to do the sum of sales here. Okay. And this first one, I'm going to do what I did before. I'm going to do value settings. And I'm going to show the values as a percent of grand total. And there we go. And then I'm going to do the sales again. This is what's so nice about it. I'm going to do sales again. And this time I'm going to put it in terms of dollars and cents. Okay, I'll click the home. Okay, now again, task 1, I sized it up if we wanted to sit. I think we might have done, yeah, task 2, task 3. You can do that on your own. But here's the data. Here's task number 4. Now, where do we stop? Where do we pull out? Okay, and this gives us a sense, first of all, well, where do we start? Do we do with Salem or where? And so what we can also do here is we could go ahead and we can play around with this. And I'm going to click inside. And I've got the sum of sales, and I've got that by city. Okay. And I'm also going to put it into, let's say if restaurants seem to be a problem, I'm going to put in the store type. Okay. And so we get those totals, and we see for each city the percentage of sales accounted for by restaurants. And we can see it also, okay, in black and white, I mean in terms of dollar terms. So we say, all right, if we're going to eliminate restaurants, in Bend might be a good place because, well, the restaurants are a lot of hard work. You know, they're much more labor intensive, but we're pulling out of our largest market. So if we say, okay, I'm going to come down to my smallest market, okay, which, I mean, these are all three so close. Bend, there's Bend, and there's Eugene, and I'm probably going to come in here, and I'm going to make all but there so I can tell where my okay? And then I've got Eugene. Now I'm just doing this to add some visual acuity. I've got Portland. All right, I've got Salem. And there I am. So I've got a tough decision to make. And, you know, again, we've got to think about the fact that, you know, if we're going to pull out of restaurants anyway, it may be worthwhile to pull out of the one where we had the lowest amount of sales. But again, you know, any of these cities we try to pull out of is going to be tough. I mean, you know, we're taking a big chunk of money from every single one of them. And I can click in here and I can show you, okay, the sum of the sales, okay, and the percentages they account for. So it would be a tough thing. Okay, well now folks, I'll tell you what I'm going to do here. I think I've shown you enough about pivot tables, and when we start next week, we're going to start to work with databases. But notice again that we had the data from Pacific Q, okay? We used it to create 4 pivot tables. We created 4 pivot tables, one that helped us deal with task number 1, how many peaches, what's the largest sale of peaches, what month do we sell them? We found it's September. Then we had a little more difficult issue, okay, in terms of who is the least productive salesperson, okay? And, you know, and we went through some gyrations with that in terms of you know, of each of these people, okay? And we had plumbed around here to see. If we don't like what we see, it's simple. We just pull it out. But we've got it store type, then by item, okay? And we saw that almost in every case, Baker just wasn't doing anything. There's plums, Baker's not there. How about pears? Baker's not there. In terms of peaches, Baker has some sales. In terms of grapes, no sales for Baker. Nobody really has any sales. And figs, nothing for Baker. And then finally, we look at apples, nothing there for Baker. So, and we've looked at it a number of ways. Task number 3 was, do we want to pull out of restaurants? We took a percentage and put a real dollar figure to it. And then task 4, we saw we really do have a challenge here in terms of pulling out of any one of these towns, because they basically do such close percentages of our business. So that's Pacific Q. Harmon Keith, I'm going to close it off. I'm going to save the changes I made, okay? And then I'm going to go over here, all right, back to the university website, okay? And I'm going to come back into Canvas. Looks like we've gotten out of there. I'm going to log in, okay? And put in my name there. I'll do it. I know what I'm going to do here for a minute here. Well, we'll do this bit. And this has been a day. Hopefully we'll sign in. And there we are. And I'll come back to our old familiar room. 4B. And there we are. Now I'm going to size this jewel up. And again, we've done that. And I'm going to upload that file. So I'm going to go over to Files. Okay. And I'm going to upload that file we just worked on. And I'm going to go to the desktop. All right. And I'm going to come down here and find it. There it is, Pacific Q. Harmon Keith will open it up and we'll upload it. Okay, now I want to mention something to you as well. There is another file. There is another file in here that you can upload for XLS 13. It's called let's see, XLS. Let's see, find it here for you. XLS 13 done. That's another one that you can use to upload for XLS. Okay, folks, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to stop the share and then end the meeting, and hopefully this will work.